All right, and we are live this evening with Ms. Falcone attending remotely. Ms. Polachina, would you mind calling the meeting to order?
Time is 7 o'clock, and stand for the flag salute, please.
7 o'clock. Ouch.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, this public body, the Hopatcong Board of Education, hereby announces that the New Jersey Herald and the Daily Record have been notified by email that this Board of Education special meeting will take place at 7 p.m. on June 17th, 2024, at the Hopatcong Board of Education Board Meeting Room in the Administration Building. Will you roll call, please?
Mr. Falcone Schubert? I'm sorry, Mr. Falcone?
Don't do that, Jeff. You notice I didn't answer, right?
I didn't expect him to answer.
Present.
Mr. DiStefano?
Present.
Dr. Capello?
Present.
Mr. Citrich?
Here.
Ms. Goulan?
Here.
Mr. Chaffee?
Here.
Mr. Francis?
Here.
Ms. Polachina?
Here.
And Ms. Falcone Schubert.
Here.
So at this point in the agenda, we will open up to public comment for items 5 and 6 on the agenda. Anyone from the public that would like to speak at this time?
Public?
Come on, Jen, say
Looking
something.
out into the audience?
I would like to welcome back Mr. Jeskis and Mr. Pilata.
Thank you very much. With that, then, we will close the public comment portion of the agenda. Item number 5 on the agenda, let me explain it to you real briefly. Under New Jersey law, because of the state teacher shortage, New Jersey enacted legislation under Chapter 408 that allows retired teachers in critical need positions to return back to employment in a school district without impacting their pension for a period of up to 2 years. So the approval this evening is that we received permission from the Sussex County Executive Superintendent for critical needs in the area of math and industrial arts. So tonight you're approving Mr. Jeskis and Mr. Pilata under that flexibility this evening. Any questions on item 5 and item 5 only?
Yeah, I have a quick question. The salaries, are they comparable to what they had when they left?
No, so, well, their salaries are based on the HEA negotiated salary guide. So Mr. Jeskis is lower, Mr. Pilata is pretty close. The additional savings here to us is that neither one of them receive health care because they receive health care through the pension system.
Okay.
And there are no pension contributions that have to be made to the system.
Okay.
I anticipate, while this law will sunset, I anticipate that there will be future conversations as part of an education task force that is attempting to address teacher shortages in New Jersey on a whole. There are areas in science, in particular mathematics, and some of the career and technical education areas that school districts are very much struggling to find teachers. And there are some other large school districts that are struggling to find teachers, period. It almost doesn't matter what certification area. So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay. With that, then, can I get a motion on item 5?
Move it.
Second.
Item 5, moved by Mr. Falcone, second by Mr. DiStefano. Mr. Falcone, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. DiStefano?
Yes.
Dr. Capello?
Yes.
Mr. Citrich?
Yes.
Ms. Goulan?
Yes.
Mr. Chaffee?
Yes.
Mr. Francis?
Yes.
Ms. Polachina?
Yes.
Ms. Falcone Schubert?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, item 6 this evening is a resolution under newly enacted legislation. It is Public Law 24, Chapter 13. It is known as the Tax Levy Cap Adjustment. The legislature this year finally began to act on school districts under S2 that were suffering large state aid cuts. Unfortunately for Hopatcong, the legislature decided to act in the very last year of the state aid cuts because, and I try not to inject politics into what we do, but large numbers of school districts in central and southern New Jersey saw large state aid cuts for the very first time, and politicians reacted to that. Each of the years that we lost state aid in Sussex County, our local politicians got involved and they advocated for education, but it really fell on deaf ears with Trenton. And it wasn't until this year that the legislature decided to take action. In the preceding 4 school years, Hopatcong Borough Schools have lost a little over $6 million in state aid. This legislation allows school districts to recoup up to 9.9% of their local tax levy for that lost state aid. However, the legislature is not appropriating additional money for that lost state aid. They are turning around to the local taxpayers, and the local taxpayers are responsible for absorbing those increases. As part of our conversations and our look at this legislation, our tax increase was 4% for the budget you previously struck. That means that under this law, which is valid for 1 budget year only and must be enacted or passed upon by the middle of July, you could increase your taxes by an additional 5.9%. The total is 9.9%.
Just for 1 year.
For this year only, this is the only chance you would get to take advantage of this legislation.
But does it persist beyond that?
It becomes part of your local tax levy.
Right, so
That
it's not
is
just
correct.
this 1 year, it's just.
But I mean, was the,
Yeah, but it
the law,
persists. It
the law
persists.
was,
The law only allows you
you're saying,
this year to
Yeah.
enact it, all right? With that said, that additional increase, this Board of Education could recoup a little over $1.5 million of that $6 million that was lost state aid. We have managed to balance our operating budget with 2 positions that were cut through attrition. 1 retirement and the passing of 1 teacher earlier in the school year allowed us to do things a little bit differently heading into next year. That still required a tax increase. You know that we went out for a referendum in September, and that referendum was defeated for a large group of capital projects that are needed within the district. As part of our conversations in committees and looking at what our needs are, we scaled that referendum back to 4 projects: high school roof, Tulsa roof, middle school underground oil storage tank, and the Durbin Avenue underground oil storage tank. Those projects are about $9.9 million in estimated cost. Those projects include, within that cost, contingencies for cost overruns. They include architectural and engineering fees. They include bond counsel fees, and they include any other environmental issues that may come up. If we went out to a referendum in November for those projects, the Board of Education, subject to Department of Ed review, would be eligible to receive 40% of those costs back. So in simple, straight-term math, a $10 million referendum approved by voters would allow the district to get $4 million of that cost back. Theoretically, on that same information, included in your packets is a bond tax analysis. A 5-year bond, borrowing that amount of money for the project, would cover the cost of the projects for each of those 5 years. So in theory, the presentation for a revised budget tonight is put before you to increase taxes by that additional $1.5 million. In the resolution specifically directs that the adjustment amount is designated for capital improvements and payments. That money in your budget is put aside in a capital maintenance line item. There are no other items in there. there would be no transfers in or transfers out of that line item for transparency purposes, to be able to show that this is how we would be able to take care of our needs. If the board passes this increase and we go out for a referendum in November and the taxpayers vote no against the referendum, the taxpayers would have to pay 100% of the project cost, the full $10 million. We would have to take the $1.539 million each year, transfer it at the end of the budget year into capital reserve, and save that money up for at least 5 years to have enough in our bank to be able to do the high school roof improvement, and then each year after that, 1 year of that capital improvement money to handle the Tulsa roof, the middle school oil tank, and the Durban oil tank. Basically, what it would mean is you would not be able to start your projects for at least another 5 years in an avenue where the facilities committee was briefed by our architect and our roof management company that those building roofs are in dire need of repairs. It also means that waiting 5 additional years, the cost of those projects is going to continue to grow. Right? So this is today's dollars. The Phoenix advisors who provided you with the financial information for your September referendum provided this impact analysis for you as well. A 5-year bond, very different than mortgage interest rates and car loan rates and things that exist out there right now. 5-year bond, municipal tax exempt bonds are 4% interest. Okay? So we are, for all intents and purposes, debt-free, and we have been for a very, very long time. The last bond this district floated was 30 years ago when it constructed the new gymnasium and the tech centers. Those bonds have long been paid off. All right? So that is the proposal before you today as a way to try to ensure that we have the revenue necessary for the capital improvements. And notice that I said to you, this is not for any new educational programs. This is not for new classroom teachers. This is simply what we need to do to keep our facilities up to date. The referendum we put out last year in the $32 million range is not the full list of all of the capital projects that are included in our capital plan. That number is close to 60 million. All right? Some of them are crucial. Some of them are urgent. Some of them are important. Some of them are longer term costs. But we have to be careful to continue to plan for the future. That's what this attempt tonight is to do, is to provide you with that information and then be able to go from there. So let me open it up to board members for questions, for comments on what it is we're looking at, so that I can try and give you all of the potential information that you might need.
So the last interest quoted on the referendum from September was 4.5%, right?
Correct. That was a much longer bond at a much larger amount.
So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that smart school districts, right, do this very well where they'll roll money over money. I think that's how Mount Olive got to where they are. It's probably how a lot of schools got where they are. So, something for all of us to think about, right, is if we go short term, and then if we try to go long term or even short term the next time, and we show all these capital improvements, the tax burden could be actually less on borrowing more money. So, I know 5 years is a long ways away, but I just wanted to I know probably everybody was thinking that, so I might be stating the obvious, but hopefully the people that are listening, and Jen that's here, just think, not only just what's in front of us, right, but where we will be able to get if we can start acting in a fiscally responsible way. And, borrowing money is not a bad thing, right? There's good debt and there's bad debt. Being debt-free doesn't really help anybody. Personally, it doesn't help yourself, doesn't help your credit score. So there's good money and there's bad money. So Thanks, Jeff.
I have a question. When you say the designation will be to capital improvement payments, are you suggesting that we use the monies we get from this 9.9% increase to pay off the bonds?
So that could be something that we could absolutely look at. In this first year, when you go out for referendum, regardless of what you do, your first bond payment isn't going to be due until August of 2025. So the money that you borrow or the money that you raise this year would have to go to capital reserve at the end of our budget year. That's where it would have to go.
And then can we modify the resolution to specifically state that it's the intention of the board that these additional monies be used to pay down the bond debt, assuming that they occur?
We can certainly look at it. Absolutely.
No, I want to change. Then look at it means, I'm not sure what that means, look at it.
We also can't guarantee the referendum's gonna pass, so saying that it's gonna be used for capital improvement
Yes.
allows us to be able to use it for capital improvement if the referendum doesn't pass, and if it does pass, then we can use it to pay for the referendum.
And certainly we
So leave
could,
it open.
we could insert into the wording if there's a question for non-general operating costs. If that would assuage any questions or concerns that board members might have.
Okay, when we put the referendum out, can we word it such that we give the voters an understanding that it's likely that we will be paying this off with existing monies?
So,
I mean, I don't know if it's feasible.
well, here's the way it would be reflected. They'll get 40% of the costs if they approve the referendum. The public will absolutely do that. And then it would be the goal of this board, the objective of this board, to utilize tax increased revenues to pay for those projects and those bonds.
Well, yeah, but what I'm concerned about is that we're raising taxes by 9.9% here, and then if the referendum passes, that's going to be another, 6% interest? Another 6% increase?
No. So the goal here is we would then.
Potentially, I'm not saying.
Yeah, in our subsequent budget, in our 25, 26 year budget, we would have to delineate in that budget how those bonds would be paid for, because the bonds aren't even going to be sold by the time we do our budget. So this board could then look at it and say, hey, in our existing budget, which includes $1.5369 million, we want to allocate this revenue stream specifically for paying down our bonds and transfer it to that area.
Is everyone on the board, or does anyone object to doing that?
No.
No.
So you would have to do that in your
No, I
25,
get that.
26
I get
budget.
that, but I'm
And
just
that would,
concerned that we're going to hit them with a
no,
16% increase in taxes.
no.
I don't know how you're getting.
And for full transparency, that's how I view this.
Yeah.
Right, is 1.569 million. We're going out for referendum in the fall because the only way the State Department of Ed will pay 40% is if we pass a referendum. That's the only way the state will contribute.
Of course, I understand.
And if the referendum fails, then 100% of the costs are on the taxpayers, and we're only going to be able to use that money
I understand.
to go into capital reserve. The ultimate goal is to in a subsequent budget year, say, this is how we're going to pay for things.
Yeah, yeah, I
And,
mean-
and hence that designation.
I'm just trying to make it easier for the taxpayer to say, oh, it's not really going to cost me anything because, and then vote positive for it.
Correct. And in improving this year's budget,
Yeah.
you couldn't tie the hands of a future board by putting it in this resolution that in 2 budget years, that's how we're going to use the revenue.
Right.
But I will tell you, and I'm 100% comfortable going on record as saying, as long as I am superintendent in this school district, that is my plan, and that's the budget that I will present to whatever Board of Education is here. That's very, very important to me, because the reality is this. I would love it if the state just increased its allocation to cover these costs. It's not going to. And if we don't take some kind of action, I don't know where we're going to be from a facility standpoint in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm very worried that if the referendum doesn't pass and we don't get that $4 million state contribution, waiting 6 or 7 years to do a project
3 times.
is going to be really, really tough.
Right.
It's absolutely a worry, but I recognize that.
Yeah. But as long as we do that, I have no.
Say something?
Go for it.
Absolutely.
So, just to piggyback what Jeff was saying, we tried a lot of things. We did a feasibility study, we reached out to surrounding school districts about consolidation. We tried to pass a referendum, and all of those things failed. And obviously, we just can't sit in a room, and just talk about curriculum when the roofs are leaking. We have to do something. And everyone, I hope everyone really understands and can talk to their people that either we're going to pay 100% of these things that need to get fixed, or we can pay 60%. But either way, they have to get paid. And I'd rather someone help and contribute the 40% and then be able in 5 years to roll into another referendum to get to the other issues that were marked as urgent, and then in 5 years get to another referendum to deal with the issues that are marked important, and then whatever emergencies come up between now and then. So you have to look at it that way, and Phil, you have to understand it, so you can explain it to all the people who are going to ask you questions, because the kids need this. They need a roof over their head.
I mean, they're gonna get it, right?
One way or another.
One or the other, they're gonna get it.
Just be patching holes till it happens.
Yeah. And not only that, we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot because, as Jeff alluded to, the costs are just gonna go up, as we saw from
Sure.
the numbers from last year.
These orange sections will turn into red.
Yeah.
They have already turned to red.
Yes.
Yeah, so that roof moisture survey was done 2 years ago. All of those orange areas are already red. The yellow areas, the new gym, a couple of the locker rooms, the auxiliary gym, and a couple of A hallway classrooms are being done under that ROD grant that we applied to the state and we were granted, and the state is paying 40% of that. So that other 600,000 is coming out of our existing capital reserve. It's great that we can use a roof restoration process to restore those roofs. Those roofs that are being restored are 30 years old. Those roofs are from when the last referendum in this district passed and that gym was built. All of those other areas, those roofs have far exceeded their lifespans. And unfortunately, in some areas, there are 3, and in one area, there's 4 layers of roofing material on a roof because they didn't have the money in the district at the time, and they tried to find a cheaper alternative to make it usable. And unfortunately, I think we all know, many of us as homeowners know, that when we take shortcuts sometimes, we save money initially, but then it can lead to bigger and bigger problems down the road. And as I explained to the Finance Committee, the money that we borrow through a referendum, if approved, if those costs come in lower, and there are savings on contingency fees that we don't have to use, architecture fees that we don't have to use, all of that money by code automatically goes back to paying down the referendum, the bonds themselves. We can't turn around and say, we saved $1 million on the high school roof, let's go do something else. We can't do it because the State Department of Ed will have only approved the 4 projects that will be part of our referendum. And I want to be clear about that as well when we get there.
Yep.
Other questions, comments?
I just want to say I appreciate the transparency, and I think, obviously, the public is going to have questions, right?
Sure.
So I would really like to see this room filled with people asking questions instead of making assumptions and creating numbers in their minds, right? So I would really like to get those questions answered with that transparency, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's there.
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
The
So,
honesty is there.
Yeah.
So let's get those questions answered in this forum.
Jeff, are you planning on doing similar to what we did last referendum, where we're going to have special meetings for different groups, open forums, things like that throughout the process?
Absolutely,
Okay.
and I think it's going to be, and it needs to be a partnership, right? I'll do everything and anything to try and get us in a position where we need to be. But it's going to be the accomplishments of all of our different groups throughout town that want to be able to address this issue. The state has put a couple of programs into place, as part of the senior property tax freeze program, and a couple other senior initiatives. This potential tax increase would be covered under the senior property tax freeze. So any tax increase on a senior since the time they applied to the program and were accepted,
They don't get it.
they would pay the increase as the program exists now, and that money would be rebated back to them as a rebate on their subsequent year's tax return. Legislature in New Jersey is working on a couple of other different programs that would make it instant credits instead of pay and get your money back. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I have nothing to do with the legislature on that end and that specific program. But the state of New Jersey would pick up that additional tax increase for any senior that is part of the property tax freeze program. And the guidelines for that program and the income thresholds are expanding under current legislation as to who is eligible. I hate throwing statements out there just in case I'm incorrect, and if anyone can fact check me, please. But I believe the legislation is increasing the family income to $150,000 for a couple as part of that property tax rebate, the freeze for the senior freeze.
It's 150 for 2022 and 163.5 for 2023.
Yeah, so that.
Qualified, unfortunately.
So for all of those seniors that meet those qualifications, this tax increase wouldn't impact them directly as well. The state would pay for that additional increase for every one of those eligible senior freeze holders, in addition to the 40% that the State Department of Ed would be contributing to the project as well. So I think it's important to just be clear on that. And we will offer opportunities for outreach. We'll partner with the borough. We'll partner with our local legislature outside of the referendum to help our senior community understand the property tax freeze and what it can mean for them, so that if they haven't taken advantage of it, they can. If they are new to New Jersey or new to the expanded eligibility requirements, that they can take advantage of it as well. I think that's part of being good stewards of our community regardless.
And everyone has that paperwork that Jeff sent over, and, we all want to know how it impacts our household. It was very simple to look on there to see what your house is newly assessed at and what the increase will be per home. So again, you have facts in front of you. Let's use those facts and not, go rogue and say there's going to be extra fees hidden here and there. It's all in that paperwork.
On the very last page of that stapled packet that you have, it outlines, this is based on the reassessment values. The average property tax value in town is $345,000, give or take a couple of dollars. It would show you that if the Board of Ed approved this revised budget, an average home assessed at $345,000, their monthly tax increase would be $28.42 a month.
And then if the referendum passes, it's not going to go up anymore. It continues to be $28, but now that money is going to be used to pay down 60% of those projects. Right, Jeff?
That is correct.
So I'm sorry, the last page represents the 9.9%?
It would, yeah, so if you look, you'll see your 2024 budget column.
Yeah.
That's what you previously approved. The middle column would be the 1.569 million that's on the revision, the addition tonight. And then the last column would be those two, first and second column added together, and then the monthly total as well.
And then that includes the bond rate.
Yes.
Because last time around, there were rumors saying that didn't increase, that didn't include the interest, but that would include the interest on the referendum.
Yeah, so if you look at the conforming maturity schedule for the proposed bonds, a 5-year bond at $9.897 million, the total cost of the project. Interest on a 5-year bond is a little over $1,067,000. The total debt service for this project would be $10,964,000. Of that, the state would contribute a minimum of $3.728 million of that cost.
They don't add up though, right?
I'll have to take a look at the two and go through the formula again for you.
I think it's because don't they say they're gonna pay 40, but they really come down to like 33 or something like that?
So the legislation says 40. Historically, the state has been paying 36. And it's subject to legislative appropriations each year would be more than that. And I'll check my math on the tax table, just to be sure, Phil.
Numbers for the year, right?
That's for the year.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So for this one, you're looking at anywhere between 194 and 202 for the year, and that's going to be in addition to the other side of it?
No. So that would be everything.
So your all-in number?
All in, so if-
Is this last
Yep.
page?
So if your house is assessed at 100,000, all in 9887. If your house is assessed at $950,000, it's roughly 940 for the year.
That's referendum, interest, everything. that we
Everything.
do 9.9% all in.
Everything all in.
Got it.
And like I said, I'll double check the table for you and make sure that the numbers are there, but that's exactly what you're looking at.
I don't want to start a riot, but I don't know why we don't triple it. Like,
Oh, you and I are on the same page about that.
So here's the reality.
We've always been on the same page about that.
What you're looking to do through this resolution is the maximum that the state will allow under this legislative program. That's it. And again, it's only valid for boards of education to act on when the law was passed, the middle of June through the middle of July. It's a 1-month window to have an initial public meeting and a public hearing and be done. After that time period, any school district that has lost state aid that doesn't take any action on this loses the ability to exceed the tax cap levy, unless there is a future act of the legislature that creates a new program or extends this program. And I'm not a betting man.
are we able to run demographics on how many households are in town in total, and then break them into these categories? Like, I can't imagine there are a lot of homes worth $100,000.
Unfortunately,
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because I think, like, I won't talk forever, but, like, I want to get this out. Like, this is, we're at a point now where we have to get to the community and have them understand how important this stuff is to have functioning schools. And I think that a large population within Hopatcong, I don't even think it's that they don't care. I think it's that they just bury their heads in the sand, and then they drive by 3 and 1 and see a sign that says 7% tax increase. They freak out and they think they're going to get pulverized, but they don't really understand what that amounts to in numbers. Any level-headed individual that sits in this room looks at these numbers and says, for an entire year, I might pay $1,000, but for that, the school's not going to crumble. We're not going to have a problem getting them to vote yes on this. So
Yeah, but you're still gonna have the people that they think that if they vote no, that eventually the state will step in and take care of it too.
That or they just don't fact check.
How does that work?
They just listen to people with false information.
That is 100% a fallacy. All right, somehow, somewhere, this rumor got started that if you go out to referendum and it fails 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, somebody clicks their heels together, right? And the Department of Ed whisks in and says, please let us give you money. All right? It does not work that way. It does not work that way. And, someone on the board made mention, and Natalia, I think you did, that we have looked at consolidation. We reached out to 26 school districts, right? There is legislation that addresses consolidation that requires every municipality that's part of a school district consolidating to vote on it. And if any one component of those municipalities votes no, the merger falls apart. I was part of that in Belvedere when I first started my career back in 2000. Hope, Harmony, and White Townships. One of the townships voted no, the other three voted yes. The merger failed, right? And that is how home rule and school consolidation in New Jersey works. And again, it would take an act of the legislature to change that law. There were 4 consolidation votes in the state of New Jersey in the last year. Only one of them passed, and it was in the far ocean beaches where they already had a tuition sharing agreement and they just combined 2 districts together. They were small, 30, 40 kid districts.
And you also need the buy-in from the school you're going to merge with, right? To your point, how many schools did we ask and how many schools told us to kick rocks?
Every one of them.
A lot.
Every one of them. And again, a school law primer for you, just so you understand it. If school districts were to merge, the way collective bargaining works is you take the best of each of the agreements. Let's say 3 school districts in New Jersey decided to combine together. You take the best salary guide, you take the best working terms and conditions, you take the best health insurance, all of the best comes together. And then seniority applies. And it's not the teachers in District A that are taking in District B and C, all right? All their teachers stay. It's based on seniority. You put all of the teachers together from all 3 of those districts, you shuffle them up in seniority order, and that's who gets to work in the new combined district. Not everybody, and not the teachers that maybe were original to that district that's taking everybody in. And that's important to know as well. And that's one of the reasons why, for other school districts that get approached by a district to say, hey, would you be willing to talk about consolidation, about sharing services, about attempting to reduce costs? That's one of the reasons why receiving districts start to get worried. They worry that they're going to lose their identity, they're going to lose their teaching staff, they're going to lose their benefits that their community has signed up for. And I get that, and I get that. And the other component of it is this, in reality, right? We are a school district that operates with the highest, or one of the highest, top 20 administrator to student ratios in the state of New Jersey. All right. I started in this district back in 2002, 2003 school year. There were 27 administrators. There are 6 people left in this district as of right now. 6 administrators. Our enrollment has dropped by about 800 students in total now over that time. But your administrative staff has dropped by 75% as a way to save costs. I get that. We've cut programs. We are not, if you are a company looking to take somebody over, we're not an attractive option because we've already implemented every savings under the sun to try and save our taxpayers money. We're not an attractive buyout target, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Can
Do I
I
have-
answer Scott's question? I think, Scott, you asked how do we get this information out and how many homes are worth 100,000. So if you go on the town's website, they have an Excel spreadsheet with everybody's old assessment and new assessment. I downloaded it into sheets, and you can sort it from high to low. I mean, that's one way you could see how much homes are worth, and then figure out the percentage of homes that are within that average range and high average range. And if someone wants to do it on their own, they can. But the bottom line is it's education, right? And I want to talk to people, and I want to tell them, I know you do too, but what we have going up against us a lot of times is people, they're busy, they don't have the time. So we need to, hammer them with flyers, with emails, with info sessions. But the bottom line is, we need to do this, and then the town can figure out how they want to pay for it. If they want to pay 60%, or if they want to pay 100%. And, $34 a month is not a lot of money. And the fact that we have no debt, we haven't been investing in our schools, that's not good for anybody's property value. And it's not fair to the kids who go to school here. So we have to do what's right by them.
And I will gladly download that spreadsheet off the town website.
Thank you.
I'll sort it 100 ways from Sunday, and I'll certainly send it out to the board. And as we get closer towards launching a referendum and coming back before you with a vote to go out to referendum, we'll develop a website. We'll post all of that information on it. These documents here tonight, the town assessed values worksheet as well, along with the project costs, along with the moisture scans on the roof, all of those things, so that we can be as transparent as humanly possible to make sure that all of our community members understand where we're at.
Why, I see Councilwoman Jen with the hand. Do I have to make a motion to go back to public, or can we?
I think a motion to go back, to open it back up to public would be good, just as long as I know that there are no other questions or comments from the board. All right, since I don't have a motion yet on item 6, resolution, if you'd like to make a motion in a second to reopen it to public conversation.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to reopen the public.
I'll second.
Okay. Any member of the public that would like to speak?
Yes, I understand 5.9% plus the referendum. If the referendum doesn't pass, taxpayers are responsible for 100%. If the referendum passes, we're responsible for 60% of that $10 million.
Well,
A little bit more, but yeah, close enough.
62, 63, and 64, somewhere in there. Yep.
So when you break down the referendum, and I remember last year, we had a price per household, how much was going to go up a month, a quarter, whatever it was. Is there a difference in that if you only go to the 5.9, is that one set of numbers? If the referendum passes, is that a different set of numbers? It's the same no matter what?
No. So what is presented here tonight is the resolution that exists before the board, which is increasing the taxes by that 1.569 million. Doing so, that's what the increase would be.
Got it.
Right?
Huh?
That's based on the bond where the town approves a resolution and the state contributes 40%. We can go back to Phoenix Advisors and say to them, hey, listen, take out the 40% state contribution. If we were to theoretically borrow the money, right, they would subtract out the interest, right? And then we would have to say, how many years would it take? The amount isn't going to change if the referendum fails. The per month amount, and here's why. Because if the referendum were to fail, we're going to have to take 7 years to get this money from the taxpayers every year before we can start the projects. Because we have to move it to capital reserve. We can't borrow any money to start a single one of these projects. So what it means for the taxpayers is instead of 5 years, the state contributes approximately 40%, and you're done based on this tax increase. Now you're looking at somewhere in the 7 to 8 year range of this $1.569 million before we can start and actually complete the projects. And those projects are going to cost you more to do.
If our roofs even last that long, as Mr. Citrus pointed out, the orange areas are now all red, so.
I think over the course of the years, we've cut staff, we've cut administrators, we've lost a building. There's not much more we can cut besides a roof, and I'm not sitting here to do that. Plain and simple.
I have a question. So let's say that the referendum does pass. Is there any point that we would, when we're in this budget discussion again, that we would think about lowering the taxes if we got the money?
No. See, so what I want to be clear on is borrowing the money.
Right.
This tax increase would cover those costs.
Right.
It would be 5 years for you to have to pay that bond off.
So you mean after the 5 years?
Potentially after 5 years, yeah.
Percentage lower.
Yeah.
That would be up to the Board of Education in 5 years to make that determination.
That's when you go back out.
Right.
The referendum.
Which is good. 5 years is a good average. So you have enough time to think about what else you need to do. If you do 20 years, then it takes 20 years before you make another big move. That's crazy.
The majority of school districts, businesses, as your debt starts to wind down off of your balance sheet, you look to enter into new debt so that your payments don't change, but you can continue those projects for another 5-year, 10-year, 15-year term. And as I've said before, in 5 years, there may be additional technologies that allow us to address some of the other capital projects on our list in a different way, at a different cost. We've really identified the 4 projects that are crucial. And I've said it before. The Tulsa Trail roof is held on by batten strips and sandbags, right? 2 years ago, a windstorm ripped that roof from its insulation. We've secured it. We continue to patch it on a yearly basis. The insurance company paid us all of $35,000 for the claim. And that was basically administrative costs for trying to do everything. They said, look, I'm sorry, the roof was from 1974. It has well outlived its useful lifespan. It has no value. It would be like driving a 1947, I don't know, pickup truck that isn't a classic, that, you get hit from behind and the car is total. Your insurance company isn't going to pay you out. It has no value. And that's where we were at on that insurance claim. So that roof absolutely has to be repaired. The high school roofs have to be repaired. You know that the high school oil tank had to be replaced under capital reserve. It failed its pressure test, right? Thank goodness the hole was near the top of the tank, right? So during the pandemic, we could fill it halfway and we could continue using it until a new tank came in. And we've put that tank above ground so that there are fewer environmental regulations, there are fewer inspection costs to us, there are fewer insurance costs to us, because believe it or not, we live in a lake community. We are within the wet water threshold area for the lake. And so underground storage tanks in this area require additional inspections. An oil tank that we replace at Durban and at the middle school as part of this project are both going above ground, right? It allows us to maintain them. It allows us to have eyes on them. It allows us to reduce inspection insurance costs for the future. And those tanks are all the same age.
This is a digression, but are you going to put like a wall around the tank so you don't see it?
So just like the high school, we've got a fence and some screening. We'll
Probably by code to
do
do
the
that, I
same
would
thing
think.
at the middle school, and we'll do the same thing at Durban.
But just a fence, nothing solid.
We have money.
They're all ticking time bombs.
I have another question.
Yeah, that's what.
So when they do the reassessment, money just gets moved around, right? So-
I am not a assessment professional. I just asterisks.
Yeah, but money gets moved around. I'm trying to see, are we aware, or could we find out which of these zones from 100,000 to 950, who got hit the hardest? I'm trying to get to like, who's getting hit the worst and what's that number going to be in total?
And I'll certainly defer to Jen in a minute. The zones have no impact on who got assessed up, down, or stayed the same. Your individual property value is what was impacted. So theoretically.
But it's not done in pockets
No,
of certain areas.
So theoretically,
One for one?
I could have bought my house 25 years ago
Right.
and didn't make a lot of improvements, whatever it might be, and my house was assessed at 150,000. And now the town went back through and they reassessed, and they look at your home now and say, well, yeah, in those 25 years, your house isn't assessed value isn't 150,000 anymore. Your house value has gone up by $400,000. Put a new deck on, you did some renovations, remodeling. So it isn't tied to the individual assessment value.
Don't they assess every home in the town?
Sure.
They do, but it's not based on what your previous assessment was. That the strata has nothing to do with it. It's simply your individual house. What's the change in its valuation? Up, down, or did it stay the same? Phil's house, Jason's house, Joe's house, my house, Jen's house. It doesn't matter what it was previously. It's what is the new value. Certain areas, certain types of homes, certain ages that homes were bought may impact that, but that isn't an exhaustive list, and I wouldn't pretend to be an assessor.
Valuation of the town also went up. So that's where your numbers change. So my house, I've been there since '06, went from 172.5 to $316,000 assessed value. But my taxes only went up $200 a year. You have other houses that at the last assessment were overassessed and they were brought back to normal and their taxes dropped a lot. So there's a person who lives on the lake, his taxes came down $2,000 a year.
That gets distributed out amongst other people in
Distributed
town.
out, right, so typically what they say is a third go up, a third stay the same, and a third go down. Now, what's the same? Is the same zero? No, the same is like $0 to $99 a year, or $0 to $60 a year, or whatever it is a net zero. And then outside of that is a third and a third. Is the way in theory it's supposed to happen. But you're saying the assessed value of the whole town went up. I can't remember what it was. But it generates the same amount of taxes. So the tax levy for the town is $13 million. You're not gonna generate any more than $13 million. So that $13 million is just distributed differently.
And it's the same argument for school taxes.
Right.
When there's an assessment, even when new homes, let's say there were 400 acres of land in town that was developable, and 400 new homes were built on 1 acre lots. That increases the town's assessed value, but it does nothing for the local school district tax levy, because our levy is a set amount. All it means is everybody in the town pays a little bit less because of those new homes that would be built.
Spread out.
Understand that. What I'm trying to drive at is we're not putting anybody out on the street,
No.
right? In totality, with the town doing their assessment, with us doing this thing, let's say it equals out, right? Somebody gets a $400 increase from the town and a $400 increase from us, $800 for the year, right? So my point is, we're gonna get a lot of pushback, Johnny down the street can't afford a sandwich, and, how dare you do this and put them out on the street? Like, we have to be prepared to have proactive messaging on the fact that, A, that's not true. B, the people that really are at the most risk of this would be the seniors who have a program to get rebates, if in fact they need it. And if they don't, then they don't, right? So I think
Or if they don't qualify.
the last time we did this, we did a couple of events at the school, and Art was really saying like, I got this, and, we didn't have it, right? And I think we collectively as a group, we have to figure out, like, we need to do more. And like, look, I'm down, man. I'll roll the sleeves up, whatever, knocking on doors.
Just about to say we need to maybe.
We have to really, like, if we go in half-assed, we're gonna get shot down again. This town is very averse to these types of things. And we know it's important because we sit here every month and we read these numbers and it's ingrained in, and we care enough to join a school board, right? So if you care enough to join a school board, you're gonna be proactive in wanting to get this stuff done. But we've got to find a way to reach the person who's sitting home right now saying, I could give two you-know-whats about what happens at the school, and try to say to them, like, hey, look, you may not care about the school and you may not care about kids, and that's aggressive, but like some people don't, but you should care about your own home value, right? And the way that your own home value goes up is by investing in the community and having the schools grow and do well. People want to come here, they move into town, supply and demand, right? So I think we have to have some type of presentation that shows not just like, hey, we need some money to fix like these things that are broken, but ultimately we have a bigger plan in place. Once those basic things are fixed and we have baseline this thing, now we have more revenues coming in each year, and we can start to do bigger things that are going to make this stuff look good, act good, offer more courses, right? So that people see down the road, okay, if I vote for this now, in 15 years, when I want to move out of here and retire or do whatever I'm going to do and sell my house, it's going to be worth more, because otherwise the roof's going to cave in, your house is going to be worthless because everybody's going to move out of town, and and it's like nuclear Armageddon around here. So those are the extreme examples, but somewhere in the middle is the truth.
I agree. Are you done? Sorry.
Probably went a little too long on that.
No. I just don't want to cut you off because you're making good points. I agree 1,000% with you, right? The message has to be better, but at the end of the day, the message has to be so simplistic because it really is at this point, right? The school board, which we've never had, we have leverage, right? And it's bad leverage, but at the end of the day, it's a simple, you vote yes, and you will pay a fraction of the borrowed money. You vote no, and you're on the hook for 100%. It doesn't get any clearer than that. We're talking about tax increases, reassessments, programs. People don't give a shit about any of that stuff. They know the argument that everybody had in every one of these meetings is the school board from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago, from 30 years ago, you guys didn't do anything. That's going to be the message for those people regardless. So it's a simple, I don't want to say gun to the head, but that's exactly what it is, right? The state afforded us an awful program, but a program that gives us a little bit of leverage to say, we're doing this. You want to do it incrementally, very slowly, more painfully, more expensive? Fine, because we'll stay, right? Whoever else doesn't want to be a part of that will go. And new people who come in will have a vision, of a younger vision. They'll say, this is a really good thing. Or we could pay a fraction of it, and we can get the water from under our nose. 5 years from now, we can say, look at our facilities. Look how the enrollment numbers are going up. Programs we're able to offer. Now let's really hit them hard, right? Scott, the delusions of grandeur that you and I have, right? Let's put, make more programs, a new field, whatever the case may be. But when people start to see progress, that's when people start to wake up. So it's got to be succinct. It's got to be as simple as, yes, this is your number. No, that's your number. You do what you want to do.
I think a nice thing would be is maybe we could see what these towns like Mount Olive and how much more these individuals are able to sell their house because they invested in the schools. Maybe that could also drive the point for the people that don't have kids and be like, wow, I could get an extra $200,000 if I invest in this for the next 10 years. That seems, a pretty simple decision to make.
Yeah. For me, the people I talked to prior to the last referendum, we're all just basic people. What's the bottom line and what am I getting for it? That's what's important to everybody. What am I paying per month? What am I have to pull away from, whether my personal budget or what can I do? I think a lot of people catastrophized what was going to go on last year because they got misinformation. I think this speaks clearly, very clear. This is how much it will cost you per month, monthly, yearly. And I think that's the message we have to get to most people because most people are like us. I have to say, Scott was talking about what's the average, but if you looked at the makeup of the town now, the young families. People are moving back in, whether, they're K through 12, but they're younger families that want to invest in the schools. They just want to know, hey, how much is this going to cost me? And what exactly are we getting for it? Is this a money grab by the board? You guys are going after 9.9%, but we have to tack on to that. Hey, listen, we go out for this referendum. It's our goal to do X, Y, and Z. That's what we have to let people know clearly. Without this other propaganda on I don't want to go on my social media rant, but I despise social media. I don't have it, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I invite people to come here. You know what? Even if they go online and pull up our minutes, just read it. Read factual information for once.
They're not going to do that, and that's
they're the
why
keyboard.
social media is so important. That's why having a social media presence was so important. The last referendum, Facebook was an atrocious mess of disinformation about the referendum. You had multiple people claiming that the taxes were going to go up 17%. We're going to make all the seniors lose their homes. That's
not going to go away, though.
No, it's not.
No, but we have to
battled
attack
for
it.
Right, yes. We were very active in all the Hopatcong groups, all the community groups that there are, and we were in there every single day in the trenches in those comments telling them that's not true. We put out all the facts out there, but the problem is you can show them the numbers, and they don't want to read the numbers because they just want to believe the hype, all right? But I think that Joe saying, breaking it down, and just saying, look, you can hurt a little now, or you can really hurt down the road. That's the easiest way to say it, is we either hurt a little right now with a little bit of tax increase, or down the road, we're really going to hurt when our roof is collapsing.
And we have a lawsuit on our hands.
Exactly. We have lawsuits, we have kids who have mold, breathing in mold, and all kinds of other things.
Black and white.
Can I make a motion to move item number 6?
Second.
Did we already do that?
No, I have one more.
Go for it,
Can I
Jeff.
ask a board member a question?
Yes, Mr. Falcone Schubert.
Phil,
Gotcha.
never going to live that down.
No.
Never mind.
It's on a recording.
Phil, I have a question for you.
Your name.
The last referendum in both committee and public, you were very vocal in saying that we didn't do our due diligence, which is a pretty scary word, especially from the world you and I come from, right? Would you say that after the last referendum passed, would you say that the due diligence has been done on this project and all the things leading up to it?
I don't deny that the roof is leaking.
No. Not that. Have we done due diligence on the things that we need throughout the course from September to today for all the things you have asked Jeff to do to be able to speak confidently that this is the best route forward for the school? Have we done our due diligence? Yes or no?
I have two answers for you.
Sure.
Okay. The first one is, I still don't have any answers to my questions regarding the report that we got. There were a lot of questions I had for that, and because we didn't question it, at that part of it, I don't think we did the Porzio report. You know, the one that did that, what was it called?
Who are those questions with?
Consolidation.
Who are those questions with? The ones that you have? Who has those questions?
Oh, I sent them to Jeff, I sent them to Nicole, I sent them to you too. There were like 4 questions.
I do not have the question.
I'm waiting for the attorney
Right.
to get back with the consultant to be able to answer Phil's questions.
You know,
about
I
the graphics.
asked these questions 2 months ago, at least, more. So that to me is still an outstanding issue in my head.
Got it.
As far as what this looks like, this looks, I think this makes a lot of sense.
So due
My only
diligence was
concern
done on
with
this flyer here in front of you?
I'm sorry?
Due diligence was done on everything that you see in front of you here?
Yes, with the exception, of course, of the Porzio report.
I'll make a motion to move it.
I'll second.
Finish my answer.
After that comes any discussions.
All right, okay.
Still good.
Okay.
It always gets confusing with the discussions and moving forward.
Like, look, the truth of the matter is, dude,
I always think
you got a community here that's kind of like on the rocks, right? And your section of the community is going to be important to get this vote passed. And you're the advocate.
I'm not worried at all about the referendum. I'm worried about an additional 6% taxing. People are going to go crazy.
That was never mentioned.
Yeah. You keep bringing up 6%. Where are you getting 6%
Oh,
from?
it's the 4% plus the 5. It's 5.9%.
But that's happening one way or the other.
Yes, I know, I get that. Okay, but I'm saying people are going to wonder, what the hell are we doing? They're increasing
We're
our
gonna
taxes by 9% in 1 year?
Yeah, and tell them we're fixing our roof. That's what we're doing.
No, and
Reinvesting
that's
into
fine.
the
And we got to
schools.
make sure that they understand that we have to do it.
Yeah.
The referendum is pretty much
Fire department.
going to be,
Little auditorium if we got it.
it'll be for free for the most part. I won't use the word free, but it'll be pretty much paid for.
I'm on
behind
social media. Send them to me. I'll tell them exactly what we're doing with the money. Send them to me.
And here's the deal,
Yeah, actually.
right? So when you look at the percentage, and this is what I was talking about when you drive past.
It's a big
3-1.
percentage.
You look at 9.9%, that's a big number. When you look at this, and you say to somebody whose house is worth $750,000 that they're gonna pay $738 a year, I don't think that, the only way you're gonna get pushback from somebody on that is if they're proactively saying, I do not want to invest a nickel in the Hopatcong School District because I don't care about it.
Actually, I know people that would say exactly that.
Right.
They
And so
really do.
that's-
I mean, I also know people, new people that came
You'll never complain.
down that said, Phil, do we really need this? And I said, well,
Yeah,
we do need it, but, you know, this was the last one. But at this time, I thought we didn't do it.
But I put out signs that said 7% increase.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna be a big part of this passing. Because your constituents, the guys that listen to you.
I promise you, I will support the referendum as written, as long as we are going to continue, we'll pay it, but with the.
I wanna see
I wanna
you on
see
Facebook
signs of
together
yes.
saying, vote yes.
You know what? When we get,
See-
804.
grab Phil,
804.
Sign in the
I'll
ground.
the front
tell my
yard.
friends, too.
this front yard.
Yes, I like it.
I don't wanna beat you
Vote
into it. I
yes.
want you to really see it and believe it. Cause like I said,
What I have to
you
believe-
can single-handedly get this thing passed.
What I want to believe and get some level of assurance is that the 9.9 is the max. We're not going to go beyond that.
Can't, by law. Cannot, by law.
Done. Next.
Cannot increase taxes. by
No, but if you have a
9%.
referendum and it passes, your statement here about using it for payments is, outstanding. It doesn't necessitate that we'll do that. I mean, come next year when the budget comes in, the board can say, no, we put, the bond was passed, therefore the taxes have to go up another 5%, whatever the hell the number would be. That's potential.
You'd have a cap.
Sure, or it could be working reverse, too.
And just for
But
the
that would be a
record,
different year.
I said to you.
No, I understand what you said, and I believe you.
I will never present a budget moving forward if this tax increase approves and the referendum is passed. That money that we are raising tonight, 1.569659, will directly be placed towards paying off those bonds. And in this year's budget that we are proposing to you, as I said to you, it is set aside in a maintenance line specific for capital improvements with nothing else budgeted to it. No transfers in, no transfers out. No, because Phil, I agree with you, and I want to be 100% transparent. I know we need this, and I know that the referendum is the additional tool in November, and the only way to get the state to pay 40%.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I get that. I'm absolutely behind that.
All right, with that, on the resolution, item 6, approving to submit the tentative revised school budget to the Sussex County Superintendent. Motion by Mr. Falcone, seconded by Mr. Chaffee. Let me call the roll, please. Mr. Falcone?
Yes.
Mr. DiStefano?
I'm going to vote present.
Okay. Dr. Capello?
Do you know what that means?
You're a
Mr.
piece of work,
Centric.
that's what it means.
Yes.
Ms. Goulon?
Yes.
Mr. Chaffee?
Absolutely.
Mr. Francis?
You took my word.
Ms. Polachina?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Falcone Schubert?
100% yes.
Let me move to item number 7, Board of Ed member comments. Any additional comments from members of the board this evening?
I just want to say congratulations to all the seniors that are graduating tomorrow night.
Exciting.
We are looking forward to a great ceremony tomorrow evening. Again, it will be hot. I'd
No
ask,
suits, no suits?
you know what, I would say please dress comfortably, be smart. Given the weather forecast, that's for board members, that's for our public. I know that the high school administration has been working diligently to make sure it is a dignified, succinct ceremony so that we can honor and celebrate our graduates. I worked on my speech. I joked with the 7th grade advancement ceremony the other night that I trimmed my speech from an hour and 30 minutes to an hour and 25. My speech tomorrow night will be under 2 minutes. It is not my night, it is our students and our families' night. I want to congratulate our students, I want to thank our parents and our community, and then we'll get a chance to celebrate them. So I look forward to that.
Cool.
Thank you.
I would like to make a comment. Just congratulations to all our Hopatcong Girl Scouts who just bridged the other day. We had about 30 Girl Scouts from across about 5 different troops who all bridged and moved up levels, all the way from Daisies going to Brownies to one who is leaving Girl Scouts and going into adulthood.
So bridging means going from brownies to Girl Scouts.
Right, they move up to their next level, and then you have one single girl.
Boy Scouts, I don't know girls.
Like a Cub Scout to a Boy Scout, right? Same.
I got 2 girls. I'm very well versed in Girl Scouts now.
Well, you have to be, and I appreciate
Gotta
that.
start bringing some cookies.
I am a troop leader.
All right, with that, can I have a motion and a second to adjourn this evening, please?
Any
Move it.
motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
I,
we'll close this
thank
meeting
you.
8:09 PM this evening. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Present.